Good afternoon, everybody. Good afternoon. If you're just coming in, please try to work your way forward. We're going to begin our second industry session. I hope that you all had a chance to partake of the good food and the key lime pie. Please try to stay awake. So for our second industry session, we have a special guest. It's Dr. Eric Coleman. Dr. Coleman is a U.S. Navy veteran with over 20 years of experience in food service and is a certified chef by the American Culinary Federation. His career spans various sectors, including fine dining, K-12 education, higher education, military service, contracting, and healthcare. He currently serves as the Director of School Nutrition for the Alexandria City Public Schools in Alexandria, Virginia, just right outside of D.C. He's a professor at the University of D.C. and is an instructor and proctor for the National Restaurant Association's Serve Safe certification programs. I don't even know when the man sleeps based on this description. But anyway, join me in welcoming Dr. Coleman.
Greetings and salutations, everyone. Oh, we can do better than that. Greetings and salutations. All right. Good. That's my signature line, if you know me. Well, welcome back to the sessions, everyone. I can tell you, I'm glad it was a chicken salad, because if it was anything more than that, I would have been done for the rest of the day. So before we open up with the session, a few housekeeping things, some affiliations and disclosures that I must share with you. So in conjunction with Alexandria City Public School Division, I am the founder and CEO of DCR Consulting, LLC. And one of my publications, literary publications, is Thinking Different About Relationships, Paradigm. And that is really the crux of our conversation today, is where that is going to stem from. District profile, Alexandria City Public Schools. We are approximately 16,000 students, 18 schools, approximately 15,000 meals a day, 40% currently at our free and reduced percentage rate, and we operate around a $13 million budget with a team size of about 160, give or take. Welcome to, well, I know that's still out for debate, SNIC or SNIC. So welcome to both. We want to be inclusive. So for today's session, which is in perfect alignment with what Mr. Simon Bradley was talking about earlier today, and we're going to be talking about the self-aware leader. So we're going to take a deeper dive right now to understand. We were talking about having these personal relationships with our teams. How do we connect with them? We want to go a little bit deeper to figure out what are some tangible steps for us to really make that practical on a day-to-day basis within our industry. So why are we here? Some of the things that we want to unpack today are, how do we view others in the industry? And how do others view us in the industry? How do you in the industry with your partners view the vendors and the clients? So technically here, who are site-based or school operators? Who's school operators in the room? All right, so who are the industry partners that we operate with? Where are you in the room? Okay, so there is a dynamic here. I know we talk about who is our primary stakeholder? Who do we say? Come on, let's say it a little louder. Who is our primary stakeholder? Students. Yeah, we say that all the time. But interdisciplinary within our industries and within the school divisions, who has to be the number one customer before we even touch anything with the students? Parents? Are we sure about his parents? Who do we deal with on a daily basis? Us. Just as students are our number one priority, we still have to make sure before we reach those students that we are tapping into being the partners and the clients for one another. So we're going to talk about self-reflection. Have you had the hard conversation with yourself? And we're going to be talking about reality versus perception today. We're going to be talking about how do I think? How do I show up in the workplace every day? Have we ever thought about that? Identifying our levels of engagement, our relationship building strategies. Because how many of you know the real work starts after the contract is signed? And we wonder why. How do we lose that business? How have those relationships not been cultivated? What went wrong? Why are we reaching back out again to put an RFP out for another vendor? It all starts with you as the leader. And if anything you don't leave away with here today is, it starts with us and it is about us. It is not about the other person. Who can we control in this life? Ourselves. Who can we change? And that's hard enough, let alone trying to change other people. So the work has to start with us. And here is the disclaimer for the day, everyone. If we are not honest and if we are faking the process, it will not work. So who's ready to go on this journey today to do some real deep reflection? Now, this is not going to fix everything, but it's going to give us some practical and tangible tools that's going to guide us on this journey of how am I showing up in the workplace? How am I showing up in life? Because what we do, how we show up, is in direct correlation with how our teams and our counterparts move. Can we agree with that? We're a part of that equation. Metacognition, just a fancy way of saying thinking about how we think. Have we ever done that? Do we ever take that self-reflective look to just sit down and think about, why do I think the way I think? Why do I move the way that I move? Why do I say the things that I say? Why do I engage and interact the way that I interact? So when was the last time you took this genuine look, took this inventory about what influences your thinking, your decision-making, and how I engage in relationships? And I want to let you know, this starts before you even step foot in the workplace. How many of you know that life is lifing for people right now? Can we attest to that? There is whoever said, and I think the young lady over there said it earlier, leave life at the door when you go to work. Whoever said that needs to be fill in the blank. That is not practical. That is not life. We still have life going on in the back of our minds. Our team members still have life. And it's all about how do we show up as leaders to engage the way that they navigate when they're in the workspace. Here's a thought question. Is it easy for me to see flaws in others and difficult to see them in myself? Do we know anybody like that? That it's real easy for them to point out the flaws in other people, but they can't acknowledge them in themselves. They think they're perfect. Do I want people to change just to make me happy, all the while I remain the same? Do we have any personal relationships like that? To where you're engaging in it and the other person wants you to change, but they're cool with who they are. That's what we're going to unpack today. There's a simple equation that I like to use. Impact plus influence equals leadership. Impact plus influence equals leadership. Now, you can be a bad leader or you can be a positive leader. But at the same time, leadership is leadership. It's just all about how you are impacting people and how you are influencing them. As a leader, We are to be replicating ourselves. Something that Mr. Simon said earlier today when he said that the wellness evaluation on ourselves, if we go out and get hit by a bus, what's going to happen tomorrow morning with HR? And they might send some flowers to the family. We have to replicate ourselves. Organic transitions. And that is the number one thing when we're talking about leadership. Who are we pouring into? Who are we systematically, strategically, and intentionally pouring into? That takes time, that takes energy, it takes resources, it takes away from your day because we have so much going on that we have to do. Who has time to really do this? To pour into other people? Human nature. Anyone ever heard of Maslow's hierarchy of needs? Yeah. The one thing that we all want to get to is self-actualization, meaning your potential is realized and you're able to influence other people. But if we are just starting at the baseline of psychological needs, how in the world are we able to get to the top tier of self-actualization? Somebody throw some stuff out. What are we talking about when we say basic needs, especially with our team members? What do they need on a daily basis before we even think about them engaging in their daily work? Say it again. Somebody said it. Tools to do the job. Yeah. What are some other basics that they need? Yes. Let's get real practical here. They need a place to live. They need nourishment. They need shelter. They need safety. All these things. What was that? Come on, give them some grace. Yes, because again, we said life is what? Life is lifing. It does not stop just because we hit the doors. And even in our partnerships in the industry, people are dealing with, I used to work in healthcare, assisted living, and we have to show the residents a lot of grace because of the ways that they showed up in the dining room. And it had nothing to do with the team members, but it had everything to do with what happened earlier that morning because a family member said that they were coming to visit and they never showed up. And now they're acting out the entire day because their whole day has been derailed. And now because their fork is not in the spot where it usually is, that was the straw that broke the camel's back. So we have to show people grace and understand where they're coming from. And if they don't have those basic needs, there's no way for us to thrive. So today we're going to do this self-reflection. What is self-reflection? Anybody? Just shout it out. What's self-reflection? Take a look at yourself. How many of us do that on a regular basis, on a frequent basis? Raise them up high. Raise them up high. Self-reflection. Let's do a little exercise, a little engagement. I know it's after lunch. Got to get the juices flowing. Get those juices flowing. I need everyone to check out your phone. Go to your camera. What I want you to do, flip that camera around to look at yourself. Look at it for a few seconds. Wait a minute, hold on. I see some people laughing. Like, wait a minute, now hold up. Are you laughing at yourself or somebody else? Like, are you fixing yourself? Like, oh, I didn't know I was looking like that. And what I'm holding in my hand right now is a very tiny mirror. And you can see on the slide up here, we have a large mirror and we have a smaller mirror. A lot of times when we talk about that we're doing self-reflection, what is the point of self-reflection? To change what you see in the reflection, correct? So this morning when you woke up and you looked at yourself in the mirror before you came downstairs, what was the point of looking at yourself in the mirror? Make sure you look good. What is the point of looking in the mirror if you choose to do nothing about it? This little mirror here, how much ground could this mirror cover if you're looking in it? You're looking at different pieces of you. And that's what we do when we say that we're self-reflecting. Instead of looking at the panoramic video that you see right in front of you in your hands, a lot of us tend to use this little mirror here. So it can only focus on the spots that we want to focus on. That's the best. And we don't have the full, complete picture of who we truly are. And we run with a perception of who we are, not what other people see. Can anybody agree with me on that? Have you ever approached that person to where you're trying to, in love, tell them in a professional way about themselves and they refuse to see it? Yeah, it's Sunday. You can talk back to me. So this is what we're talking about. Perceived assumptions versus reality. How do people in your household see you? How does your spouse or your partner see you versus what you think you present to them? What about your kids, your coworkers, our industry partners, our supervisors, senior leaders in the divisions, our subordinates, our senior leadership teams? We present one way, but does it match and is it equivalent to what people actually think about us? You know, we've had those meetings to where we laugh and sniggle, and then soon, what happens when we leave that meeting? Totally different story. Self-reflection. Does the perception you have about yourself align with reality? Will your perception align and agree with what other people say about you? If we go ask your teams what you present about yourself here at this conference, will your team members say the same? That's the hard question that we have to ask ourselves. Will your perception align and agree with what others say about you? So let's take you on a journey. Who likes to travel? All right. I like to believe that I'm a fairly well-traveled person. Prior military, I was in the Navy. Any Navy in the house? Oh, come on. Okay. All right. All right. So shout it out. Where are some places that you've been before? Paris, Hawaii. I've been to Paris. I've been to Hawaii. I ain't been there yet. Argentina. Dubai. Barcelona. Where else? Where else? Jordan. Oh, nice. Jordan. Iceland. Okay. It feels like we're in Iceland back home for me in D.C. Any other places? Israel. All right. France. Good. Nice. Oh, y'all traveled. Costa Rica? Okay. Well, I remember when I was a kid, the furthest that I would go, I'm originally from Jackson, Mississippi, and the furthest place I would go was grandmother's house. So I'm blessed for wherever I go now. Let's all explore, and let me take you on a journey really quickly, of self-discovery, self-reflective look at me. Remember, everything starts with me. We cannot change the other person. Baggage, unpacking, and engagement. So for the sake of this conversation, we have some word association here. When we talk about destination or trip, we're talking about relationships, whatever that may mean. Baggage, we're talking attributes, emotions, feelings, thoughts, and characteristics. So, reflection number one, we're going to talk about baggage. Here's a little interactive thing. We're going to take about 10, 15 seconds. You're on your way to a destination, meaning relationship, whether it's professional, platonic, whatever it may be. What words describe current characteristics, emotions, and thoughts, or your baggage, you bring into relationships at work? Whether it's the industry partners, clients, superiors, direct reports. So think about that for about 10, 15 seconds. What shapes you right now how you engage at work? and in your relationships. Now, here's a disclaimer here. A lot of the things that we deal with, the way that we move in life, research suggests that is rooted from our childhood. A lot of the way that we think now, because of what we've been exposed to, our cultures, our environments, childhood. Everybody thought about now, like, okay, how am I feeling in this moment in my work, in my relationships, in my engagements? Let's look at some of those words that might be associated with how we show up in our daily relationships and our work, our current work. Disappointment, fear, resentment, anger, distrust, trauma, work hurt. Anybody have some work hurt before? Oh, I heard some mm-hms on that one. That one hit a spot. Past hurts, disloyalty, trauma, unresolved issues. Triggers. Who got some triggers? I got some triggers. Insecurities, disengagement. You don't feel valued. Self-preservation. I'm in survival mode. I'm guarded. Your story only matters. Lack of emotional intelligence and resilience. Is any of these words associated? You don't got to raise your hand. Any of these words resonate with anybody? You can do a slight head nod. Your personal life affects your professional relationships. No matter what anybody says, there is no way to turn those two off. How you're showing up in your personal life, it will ooze over into your professional life. You wake up in the morning, your kids are running you ragged, trying to get out of the house. How does that shape you when you walk into the building? Don't talk to me until I have my coffee. Yeah. Or for the operators in the schools, when our team members show up and they're fighting over carts. How dare you use my oven mitts? That was my temp log. Who touched my knife? And you're sitting here and they're like, why in the world is this a point of contention? Can't we just show up and do our job? All because of what happened that morning when we got stuck on 95 in D.C. And this goes back to, what are some of the examples and standards that I have seen in my life? What is the definition of a relationship to you? Everyone has their own, everyone can, fathom that for themselves. There's no standard version of what a relationship looks like to one person that can differ from another person just based off of your past experiences. Can I keep a relationship for an extended period of time? Is it always the other person? Have we ever thought about what is our best and our worst relationship? Again, this is all about self-reflection, unpacking. So who all flew here? Okay, who traveled here? Okay, so one of the most favorite things in life for me is going through TSA. and waiting for that turnstile to bring your baggage. Here's a fun fact for everybody to know. If you were going to the beach, what should you pack for the beach? Say it again. What's some stuff you should pack? Yeah. What happens if you don't pack appropriately and then you get to the destination? What's going to happen? You're shopping. And so now we know when you get to the destination, it's like a $375,000 markup. So, so, now, so now you're wasting time, you're wasting money, you're wasting resources to go buy the things, the essentials that you needed because you failed to pack appropriately. So what makes it any different for when we move from relationship to relationship, we go from job to job because we didn't deal with the issues on the last job, but we think the new job is going to be better, but we hit the same brick wall when we get to the new job or the new relationship because we did not pack appropriately. We didn't check our bag from last time. You know, when you go to the airport, we're all going to be doing it Tuesday when we go to the airport, and there's going to be somebody who does not rip off that old sticker from the bag or when you have to put it in there for them to check to put it on the plane. And how many of us, when we packed our luggage coming here, we said, oh, I've been looking for that. I didn't realize I left it in my suitcase. Yep, right over there. That's the whole point with relationships and new jobs and all these different things. How do we expect to engage properly if we do not pack right? And we're wasting time, money, and resources, and we're wasting other people's time because we failed to do the self-inventory check on ourselves. And now we get to baggage claim. And my brothers and sisters in here, this is what I need you to do. If you brought it, own it. How dare us blame other people for the baggage that we carry? How can I go through the baggage claim and get mad at somebody else because I packed a bag that I can't carry? Whose fault is that? And whose fault is it that the requirement is 50 pounds, but you pack 87, and now you're mad at the teller because they're making you check another bag for $75? Because who failed to pack appropriately? Own it. Own your baggage. Then that wonderful part where I was talking about arriving, security checkpoint. Have you ever arrived to your destination wrong? Did you pack appropriately? Begin to understand why you packed what you packed. Have you ever saw that person who's mad at the TSA agent because they got some contraband in their bag? And they're holding up the whole line, and they're yelling because you've seen it on TV, you've seen it when you're because they refuse to pack appropriately. And now when somebody has called them out because now you have something in your bag that's not supposed to be there, now it's the other person's fault. Because you refused to check yourself, now you're mad that other people are checking you. And now you're holding up the line. You're mad. TSA's mad because they didn't really come to work today. But now you're the person who's making them do their job with fidelity and excellence because you chose to bring contraband, because you failed to check your baggage. How many of us fail to check our baggage and then get mad when other people check it for us? Has anyone in this room ever been checked before? I'm married. I've been checked. I've been checked before, and it's not fun. But is it needed? So what's the remedy to getting checked by somebody else? What do you need to do? So there's an old song. You need to check yourself before what? There you go. See? Security checkpoints. If you really want to get under my skin, here is a statement. That's just who I am. This is an excerpt from my book, Paradigm. This mindset of thinking is a complete and utter cop-out and an unwillingness to evaluate who you are. Better yet, It's an outright abandonment of individual responsibility and personal accountability. You want other people in your sphere to change, but you want everybody to just accept you for who you are because that's just who I am. You know, we hear it all the time on our teams. Oh, that's just Miss Such and Such. Oh, that's just Mr. Such and Such. We just overlook it. Anybody ever experienced that? Tell me how that works on your team. How that's working out for you? Because nobody wants to check them and they don't want to check themselves. Reflection number 3, engagement. How do you show up in relationships? Do you have all the tools and resources needed to engage? Do you discover the reality of participation in relationships? Your packing dictates how you engage. Again, if we're going on these excursions, if we're going out this evening to a restaurant or to see the city, to see the town, and we know it's going to drop around like in the 40s, what's going to happen if you don't bring your coat? You're going to be suffering. And do you think the people around you are going to care? And all they're going to say is, I told you. Come on, we all have that one person in the group that you dread inviting places or to go on a trip. Come on now, you know, well, you might be that person then. it always complaining. Something's always wrong. Nothing ever goes right. The food ain't good. The destination ain't good. The hotel room is horrible. The service was bad. How come it's always the destination that's not right? Maybe it's the traveler. Just some things to ponder about. Are we the common denominator? In our workspaces, if you have a highly dysfunctional team and your retention rate is through the roof, there is no, I heard somebody talk about respect earlier. Whose job is it to set the tone and the expectation and the culture within the workplace and in your team? Whose role is that? We can't expect the president to do it, the VP. That is your sphere, your scope of work. If things are constantly jacked up, we may need to take a self-reflective look. Who's at the helm? But we don't want to think about those things. When we have these interdisciplinary relationships with partners and school divisions, and the marketing team and sales team has come in, done a phenomenal job of presenting the product or the service. And then next thing you know, it's back out for bid in a year. Why is that? Those are some things that we got to ponder. It's the relationship cultivation. I do a lot of counseling, and there's always that one person that says, well, they did this, they did that. They hurt me. And my first question is, how did you contribute to the problem? Well, I didn't do anything. That's the problem. Did you catch that, or did it go over somebody's head? I'm going to say that again. I said, what did you do? I didn't do anything. My response, that's the problem. We are not absolved from responsibility. It's a two-way street. We can't expect other people to do the work, all of the work. What do you see here? Just think about it. Just shout it out. What do you see here? A man walking away, wearing a hat. Somebody said woods. Somebody say a stalker? that's very creative. Stalker, okay, that's the first for that one. We're going to go with that one. Someone said SVU vibes. John Haywood, 1546. You can't see the forest for the trees. Anyone ever heard that terminology before? Are we so engrossed in ourselves? Are we so self-absorbed? Are we so out for ourselves? Are we so in survival mode? Are we trying to get that next promotion? Are we trying to outshine people? Do we want to be the best? Do we want our name up in lights? Do we have the woe is me story? Anybody ever heard that woe is me story? When a team member gets out of pocket or get out of line, it's always a woe is me story as to why this happened. And we're not even dealing with the issue. Now it turned into a counseling session. Are we so self-absorbed and we don't do the self-reflective work to see how we show up every day that we can't see the big picture? And this is what John Haywood is talking about here. You can't see the forest for the trees. As leaders, we need to have that 30,000 view panoramic scope. Because if we're constantly in the weeds, how are we really leading the operations? If we're so focused on ourselves and we're not taking the time to have those one-on-one conversations with our teams to get to the root, to build relationships, to cultivate those relationships, we're missing the point. Money cannot always be the bottom line. It can't always be the focus. And Mr. Bailey said that earlier. The most profitable organizations put who first? People. It's the people. It's the people. That is the greatest commodity that we have. People. If we don't have people, we don't have an operation. People want to feel heard, valued, seen, empowered. As leaders, are we giving them that? Or are we too busy? Yeah, there's a lot that we have to do on a daily basis. And we just don't have time for it, right? Wrong. We all make time for what we value. If it's something that you really want to do, you're gonna make it happen, right? Yeah, we're gonna shift some things around. Frequent flyers. Getting the same result while doing the same thing is considered what? Insanity. Now, how many of us have made these wonderful New Year's resolutions? I see very few hands. How many of us have kept to them? All right, good. I saw 1.5 hands. How can we, in good conscience, think that we're going to change the culture, we're going to change the dynamic, if we're continuing to do the same old things? If we had our buddies' mentality here, well, that's just who I am, We're operating from a place of apathy, a place of consistency, or complacency. We don't want to change. If it's not broken, why what? But I have a counter to that. Just because we've been doing it doesn't mean it was actually working. Was it sustainable? Or are we just doing it because everybody's been doing it for years? This is the way our division ran for years. And we're just going to continue to roll with that, even though it's not working. And we have to put a system in place for another system that's not working. Facing the same issues no matter where you go. That's a frequent flyer. Again, no matter what relationship you enter, no matter what job you go to, we're going to hit the same brick walls because we failed to do the hard work and to have the hard conversation with ourselves. That's the hardest thing to do, to have those conversations of reality. Because what? We don't really want to hurt somebody's feelings. Heck, we don't even want to hurt our own feelings. Can we honestly say that we're telling ourselves the truth? Are we living in a world of perception and not reality? And we wonder why our relationships don't last. Do you know anybody, not you, no one in here, it's never my fault. It's always the other person. It's never my fault. I'm perfect. There's nothing wrong with me. I don't need to work on anything. I'm great because I'm me. How entitled is that? And how unrealistic is that? To think that I'm good, I've arrived, but everyone around me needs to constantly grow. So here's something here to think about. Goals, desires, aspirations, and healthy relationships are all achievable. However, if they are prefaced with unrealistic expectations, the road towards these things can and will be extremely cumbersome. We gotta have realistic expectations. What is that thing that we do every year with our team members when we sit down and have that wonderful conversation with this piece of paper and it's got all these little blocks on it and number systems and scales and all that? What is that called? Somebody said a waste of time. Well said, sir. But yeah, the annual evaluations, the annual assessments. But I am a firm believer, to your point, it is a waste of time if we have not done the work the other 364 days of the year. Nothing on that evaluation should be a surprise to our team. Why shouldn't it be a surprise? What happens, or has anybody ever come to that table and it was something on there that you were completely blindsided, that your supervisor, I didn't even know this was an issue. Yeah. We had no time to pivot, to self-reflect, to shift, to put methodologies and practices in place for self-improvement and development, coaching, training sessions. None of that was there. But we presented to the person on that 365th day, and now we're blindsiding people. Realistic expectations. The expectations that we place on other people, do we live up to those expectations ourselves? Are we putting in just as much work into cultivating relationships and cultivating our teams and cultivating ourselves as we want the other people to do towards us. That is the call to leadership. Leadership is time-consuming. Leadership is hard. Leadership is sacrifice. But what greater result than to know that you are influencing people and impacting them for the better? There's a thing that I do with my team. Before I start any operational conversation with my senior leadership team, there's 4 things that I want to know. How are you physically, spiritually, emotionally, and what did I say? Physically, emotionally, spiritually, and mentally. Because if you're not okay there, as we were talking about Maslow's hierarchy of needs, how productive is that team member going to be throughout the day? They're disengaged. And when we're asking those pointy yet in-depth, open-ended questions, now it's creating dialogue. It shows the team member, I see you. We're cultivating relationships. When was the last time we just had a general conversation between vendor and client or partners, just to check in and just see how each other are doing? I can't tell you how many things I have been able to get done in my division based off of not technical or because the work needed to get done, just because of relationships. That is the power of relationship. It moves things. So final reflections here before we open it up to some questions here. Have I done or am I willing to do the work? Will people view me the same way I view myself? Do I take the whole situation in context, or do I draw out what I want to see? Understanding that you are not always right and the other person is not always wrong. Did you pack properly to fully engage in the destination? Am I the common denominator? Did I learn the lesson from my last trip? Or did I bail out of the trip and decided to engage in another trip before I completed the last one? So here's some strategies. Again, we've been talking about self-reflection, packing appropriately, unpack your baggage. When we all get back home, Tuesday, Wednesday, are we just going to throw our suitcase in the corner? What are we going to do? We're going to unpack it because we're going to have to wash some things. We have to deal in reality, not our perceptions. Deal in reality. See people as human beings. Get out of our own way and see the whole picture. And I can speak to that one wholeheartedly for myself because I have a tendency to get in my own way a lot. Because that's the way Dr. Coleman wants it. But that's not true leadership. Learn the lesson and do the work. Key takeaways: acknowledge where you are. Did I do the work? Understanding my level of engagement. What my role is in the operation. What is the cause and effect? How am I contributing? How do I show up every morning? There was a movie. There was a young man who said he knew how the day was going to be because he was living in a foster home. If his foster parent was making pancakes or waffles, he knew how the day was going to go. When you walk into the office and your team encounters you, just by your demeanor when you walk through the door, does your team already know what kind of day it's going to be? You set the tone. And how do I contribute to my team's performance? It all starts with us as the leader. And what I want to leave with everybody, the link between how to show up and engage correlates to how your team performs, and the health of your industry partners. You're the link. You are the link. What happens if that link isn't tight? It falls apart. And that onus is on us as industry partners and leaders. Thank you. So I will open the floor up for any questions, if anyone has any. All right. I see it resonated.
Awesome presentation. Question, you mentioned that there are those instances where you see somebody and it's, hey, you know, that's how they always are, that's how they've always been, just leave them alone. What if you are in an organization or on a team where a process or something is just how it's always been, and that's why we don't touch it, because, you know, there could be more efficient ways to do things, but we're just sitting still because it's easier, because that's how we know to do it. As a leader, how do you bring some tools to that conversation?
Good one. I am constantly dealing with that one, always within my division. And one of the best ways to approach that is be data-driven. Data does not lie. But as leaders, or just the person in general, the hardest question to answer is 3 letters. Can anybody guess what that is? Say it again. Why? No one wants to take the time to answer that question. So if we say, hey, this system is broken and we need to do something different, we need to do something better, the first question they're going to ask is, why? And if we have not taken the time to do our due diligence, to do the homework, to dig into the data, pull the reports, drawing analysis, what is the financial or the fiscal implication, what is the time, materials, and resources, what is the staffing models behind this, what are some alternative solutions to abate the problem, no one's going to hear us. So if we, doing that deep dive and trying to get in the brains of our leaders, and we know what they're going to ask, so if we do that work on the back end, when it's time to present, hey, we want to move forward in X, Y, and Z, and here are some potential solutions, because I know me, please don't come to me with a problem and you ain't even thought about a solution. I'm shutting it down right then and there. I don't have time to think about the problem and create the solution and create the AD model of analyzing, designing, developing, implementing, and executing and evaluating. I don't have that kind of time. Come to me as a collaborative partnership, and we can give me 1 or 2 suggestions, and we can move forward there, and give me the data to support your assumption and what you're thinking. I hope that answered the question. All right, any others? Any others? Good. All right, did anybody get anything from it, I hope? All right, good. Excellent. And then also, again, if there's any other questions or whatnot that you have, there's my contact information. Please reach out. I'll be more than happy to connect with you.